I have a confession. When I was a child, I was supposed to be watching Sunday morning cartoons. I watched the Christian preachers instead. When my parents found out, they were not happy. They would have preferred that I was eating ice cream at 7 a.m. and watching Scarface rather than these preachers. They did not get it. I was watching for content. I was watching for style and their technique, how they captured everyone's attention, but mostly how they were talking directly to God. In my childhood, talking to God was a definite no, no. You could talk around God, you could talk about God, but you definitely did not talk to God. Jews are people of the book. We read, we think, we study in order to understand. If belief comes, then great. But if not, you're still a Jew. What matters most are the rituals. If you eat matzah on Passover, fast on Yom Kippur, or light the Shabbat candles, then you're a Jew. The concept that all Jews would agree on any one belief has become so foreign that it's become a common joke. You put two Jews in a room, you got three opinions. So what links us together is not our central tenet of faith, rather it's our shared practices. We believe that there is a God, but who and what that God does is up for debate. So God is essentially the ingredient, or one of the ingredients, but not the entire recipe. Except as a child, I wanted so much more. I would stand in my closet and preach to my shoes, trying to emulate those Sunday preachers. I would tell them my fears, my desires, my hopes, and my dreams. My clothes couldn't be critical. I could feel and say and do anything without reproach. Fast forward, I'm a teenager in the market in Israel, and without warning, the Muslims in line in front of me suddenly bowed down on the floor in prayer. I was startled, I was intrigued, and I was impressed, all at the same time. In the middle of the market, they were completely unafraid to show their devotion and love to God, regardless of who was in front of them or behind them. And they were absolutely certain that God was in the market with them. They didn't need a mosque or a book or a perfect circumstances to talk to God. God was available to them essentially 24/7. It was then that I knew the Jewish world, the non-Jewish world, was onto something. These moments and many others taught me that knowing God is not enough. I needed to experience God. In times of joy and sorrow, intellectualizing God would give me a great subject to debate, but it wouldn't give me meaning and purpose and comfort. The book of Deuteronomy says, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. But in the New Testament, Matthew says, love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. So might, mind, is there really that big of a difference? Deuteronomy is teaching us that we need physical, direct, visceral contact with God. And Matthew is teaching us that we need the mind, the wisdom and the intellect to comprehend God. Together, the texts are teaching us with might and mind, head and heart, we can know and feel God in our lives. Judaism taught me to be a thinker, but living in the non-Jewish world taught me to be a feeler. And as a rabbi, I teach people the power of learning, but I also teach them the power of feeling. On Yom Kippur, years ago, I brought back an old tradition in which Jews prostrate on the floor during the sacred Aleinu prayer. The first year, I was considered an absolute heathen. The cantor and I, we were the only ones on the floor. But by year 8, almost everyone in the sanctuary was face down. We moved our bodies in order to move our souls. And by changing the way we prayed, we changed the way we related to God. When was the last time you changed the way you communicated with God? When was the last time you visited another house of worship to learn something new? When was the last time you revisited your own religious practices? Trying something new may feel incredibly uncomfortable at first. It did for me. But it has been the discomfort that has given me the possibility and the insight to believe more deeply. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that you abandon your beliefs for another one. I'm saying don't be afraid to look at the wisdom of other traditions as a way to enhance your own. I am sure my parents were worried when they saw me that first morning that one day I would announce, I'm decided to become a Baptist preacher. But they shouldn't have been concerned. I love being a Jew. Judaism is my home, it's my way of life, it is my entire identity. But what I knew then, and what I know now for absolute certain, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, you name it, these traditions do not threaten or weaken my beliefs. Rather, they grow my soul, deepen my mind, and mostly open my heart.